name's Matthew Hofmann, and this is another episode of Airstream Planet Do-It-Yourself Airstream. I'm standing outside of a 1973 vintage Airstream Sovereign, and we're going to take a little walk around tour, and I'm going to point out some of the exterior features of this vintage type of trailer. So right when you start, you can see that this trailer has been polished to what's almost a mirror shine. This trailer, the exterior skin, has about, I want to say, F9, perhaps C. That's the first two stages of a three-stage polishing process. And you can see that it's starting to look great. As I walk around the trailer, I can see that not only have we polished it, but we've reconditioned a lot of the exterior skin. There's some stuff here, like this was a light at one point, and this has been taken off. When you polish a trailer, you want to make sure you take off all the lights or anything plastic, especially when you strip the clear coat off of the trailer, because the stripper is going to really damage that lighting fixture. As with all vintage trailers, you find many hatches and panels with various style levers and locks. So you have to make sure that when you buy a trailer, you might have access to this type of lock. You got to have the key, or you got to have another lock to replace it. This is pretty common. You'll find this is the cable inlet, and a lot of times this is surrounded by also a metal surround, so you're going to be able to polish this up just like anything else on the trailer. The awning rail, or the awning cover, is also aluminum, so this is also able to be polished up. A beautiful part about these trailers is that the exterior is so well built and all of the material is essentially the same, being aluminum, that once you finish the polishing project and the exterior restoration, it looks wonderful. So now we're at the front of the trailer, and I can point out a couple of distinguishing features of a 1970s model. You'll see that you have this 1, 2, 3 style windows on the front, specifically these two wraparound windows. This is very common in the, let's say, the whole 70s decade. From 1969 is when this started, and then going all the way up through the early 80s, you'll find this style wraparound windows. Once you get further into the 80s, the trailer actually has these windows continue further around, so you get even more light. It's pretty common to know that the newer the trailer, the bigger the windows, and then the more wrapping around of those windows you're going to get. So taking a look here, this is the logo. On every vintage of trailer, Airstream handled their logo differently. For the 1970s, they actually used these cast aluminum letters, and they're typically painted. And these were applied with rivets on the back side, and then it mechanically fastened to the face of the trailer. So if you're missing a letter, know that you're going to have a source to find another one of those replacement letters if you want to have the full word Airstream on the front. In older trailers, they used plaques, and I think in the very old ones they used an engraved, very minimal, almost retro looking plaque, and those were common on the 1950s, which you can see as well. Coming down beneath the windows, you'll see these little straps here, and this is common to have for what's called a rock guard, which isn't on here anymore, which comes down to protect these three windows from rocks flipping up from underneath the car tires. And this is what would hold that rock guard down in place. This is pretty common for what you would find on a trailer that you'd recently purchased. The propane tanks were removed. This is the automatic electric hitch jack, and I'm sure it doesn't work, which is very common. You'll see chains and then other hitch couplers. This is the breakaway. And it looks like underneath here they had installed what is a spare tire storage system. And on a lot of these trailers, there was space there, but they didn't actually integrate a space for a spare tire. So a lot of times prior users will integrate a spare tire somewhere in the design of the trailer, whether it's underneath the front here or on the back bumper. Something to point out is that I noticed that this panel here is black. And after touching it like that, I can realize that that's been replaced with a new panel, which is probably plastic or fiberglass. And this is pretty common. There's a lot of rocks that come up from the road and dent these up. So this will have to be painted. This will not be able to be polished. Okay, here we are on the side of the trailer. Again, this is the 1970 Airstream Sovereign, 73 I believe, or 2. Here's the front door. And this is typical for the 1970s decade. And you'll find various style latches and levers for the front door handle. But once you open the door, you'll see that this is the style of screen door that's used for the 1970s vintage. Very common. As we continue around, you'll see this is a vent. This is actually an inlet and an outlet for the furnace. This is a water fill. So for your potable water, where you would take a hose and then you put a key in there and that slides open and fill up your water tank. Underneath here you would find two outlets that you would be able to plug an outdoor device into. It's 110 power. This is a catch for your entry door to keep it open. This is a middle support for the awning. You'll see here is we have these small holding mechanisms. This is what would be, you'd put a piece of fabric here to protect the tires from UV rays over the years. Why don't we go back to these exterior windows? You'll notice that there's a very slight curve to these, and this is very typical for 1970s. They're framed in aluminum all the way around, so this is a very durable window. A lot of times the older vintage won't have a frame all the way around, and those are prone to breaking much easier. You'll see that this aluminum can actually be polished to match the skin itself, so it can go right into it, and it looks great when it's finished. As we continue around, you'll see some more hatches, and this one's open, so I can probably open this guy up. And you'll see that right here is where the battery used to be located. You'll see the battery cables right in there. Continuing around the back here, you can see that this is an early 70s style for this brake light and backup light housing. So you'd have a backup light, a turn signal, and a brake light. This panel here, inside there, if you open that up, you would find a series of dump valves, water clean-out lines. You have some drain lines, and probably a place to plug in and a small light to light up the service panel for accessing it during the night. For 1970s, we also have access to this panel down here, and this is inside the bumper, where you'll find the piping for the water lines to come out, and you also find your shore power line in that panel as well. Okay, and there you have it, a 1972 Airstream Sovereign. My name is Matthew Hofmann, and this was another episode of Airstream Planet. For lots more information, videos, how-to tips, we have a discussion board, and we also have classifieds. Check us out online at airstreamplanet.com. Thanks for watching.